Everybody, Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it is Tuesday here on the show. You know what that means? Oddly enough, actually, we got a lot to talk about, but what is that? Apparently my daughter put a picture of herself right there. And I just noticed. Anyway, normally on Tuesday we got a lot to preview on NXT, but for reasons I cannot explain, we still have only two things announced for the show. A match, and like Ava's got something to say. I have no earthly idea why, but that's all we've got. So we'll talk about that here today. We also got Dynamite coming up on Wednesday. And a lot of other shows as well. Dynamite's the preview for Dynasty, which is this coming weekend. Sunday night, actually. And we'll talk about the full Dynasty lineup as well as WrestleMania. And, of course, last night was Raw. We got 3 weeks left until Mania. It was another show outside of this country, so there was a lot of singing. But they did manage to get a show done, unlike on SmackDown. We actually saw some matches. So we'll tell you about that. There were two standout segments on the show, one involving John Cena and Cody, the other involving Gunther. So, yes, we'll talk about that here today. And then all of the news, including, yes, I will talk about BJ Bethel's report on the AEW streaming numbers on Max. NXT Stand and Deliver. We finally know what time that show is going to take place. Lex Luger is getting married. Some SmackDown notes. And plenty more. If you want to text us here today, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. F4WOnline at gmail.com. F4W Online, Threads, Instagram, and Cameo. At Bryan Alvarez on X and Blue Sky. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Joe, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com.
Aren't we amused to start the show?
Jiminy Christmas. Yeah, did you see me on Botchamania?
I did.
I'll talk about that later. Let me write that
great.
down. Something
Fantastic.
I got to talk about.
Can we play that?
Well, I don't know. But here's the thing. Let's start with this BJ Bethel report, because I know that everyone is going to say, oh, man, Bryan wants to take a victory lap. Of course I do. But I actually want to clarify some things because just listen.
Hustle over here.
Okay. BJ Bethel, SE Scoops, had a story and he wrote, All Elite Wrestling is averaging around 500,000 viewers for its Wednesday Dynamite show on the Max streaming platform since the show debuted on the app this year, according to sources. Combined with live numbers, this would give Dynamite an average of around 1 to 1.2 million viewers per episode since it was added to the streaming service. There's an update here. As noted in the original story, there's large deviations week to week which affect total streaming minutes. According to sources, the show is averaging around 60 million minutes watched per show, with a deviation of plus or minus 10 to 20% depending on the episode. You know why this is so funny? Because some people on Twitter were so angry with this that I want to thank these people, by the way, because they subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate that $10 a month. So they got a screenshot of the producer of the show on Sunday, I think it was, commenting in the chat that if you add in Max, Dynamite was at almost 1 million viewers. And they immediately concluded BJ Bethel's source for this story was the producer of the Wrestling Observer on YouTube channel, okay?
Which is not Dom, by the way, folks.
Well, a couple of things. First off, on my YouTube, if I want to check the stats, I've got to click the button to take me there as like an admin.
Sure.
Or I can click another button and be me. And depending on which one I'm on, that's who comes up in the chat, okay? So the producer was me. It was not Jared. It was not some rando.
Oh.
Not that Jared's a rando, but it was me that said that. Now, that happened to take place the day before this came out. And so some people, because we have to make a conspiracy out of everything, concluded that that was the source for BJ's report. Did you listen to what I just said here? According to sources, tell me how this came from one line on the YouTube chat that if you add in Max, they're close to 1 million. Tell me how this came from that one line, by the way. According to sources, the show is averaging around 60 million minutes watched per show with a deviation. I don't even know what deviation means. I'm joking. Plus minus 10 to 20% depending on the episode and competition. Nielsen-style viewership numbers aren't necessarily important to streamers. The minutes watched averages to 500,000 viewers per episode, live plus one, meaning it takes into account viewers who watch live on the app. And so you're telling me that he got that out of one sentence I wrote on it? No, he didn't. He has his own sources. And then they got some other stuff here. But let me say something here, okay? Because even though when you hear what I just read, you think, my God, Bryan, he was not only right, but he undersold it. Because what I said was, I would say somewhere between 150 and 250,000 people are now watching on Max as opposed to on TBS. People said that number was absolutely ridiculous. Now this thing says 500,000, okay? This isn't saying, nor should you read it as, 500,000 people are now watching on Max every Wednesday night. That's not what this says, okay? This is talking about the way that they're coming up with streaming numbers, how many people watched at any point during the Wednesday plus one, okay? These numbers are used by Nielsen as well, but you never hear about them because they're weird, okay? And I can actually, when you talk about AEW, I'll talk about WWE, okay? Do you guys remember years and years ago when WWE was doing fine, but like not that well? Raw was maybe doing 2 million, SmackDown was maybe doing 2 million, and then you had like 1 million for main event. This was even before NXT. And, you know, if you added up all the numbers, it came up to like 6 million people, okay, that were watching WWE programming. And that was presuming that nobody that watched Raw watched SmackDown, okay, which is ridiculous. They were probably watching the same show. But if you added them up, it's a game over. So one day WWE did this press release, and they said between like Raw, SmackDown, and main event, I forget what the third one was, but WWE has 15 million people watching their programming every week. And I read it and I went, what? 15 million people? And like I took Raw and SmackDown and main event or whatever, and I'm like, it's like 6. And I wrote this big long thing in the newsletter about where in God's name are they coming up? And they said specifically like in the U.S. It wasn't even like worldwide. It was like in the U.S. they had 15 million viewers. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I wrote this big long thing about it. They called me. Like, they called me. And I don't remember who it was, but this fellow was like, let me explain this to you, brother. And so he explained that, like, what they were counting was how many different people tuned in to at least 1 minute of the programming over the course of a week in the U.S. You could have been flipping channels from the dog show. You could have actually typed in 6-1 instead of 1-6 because you were trying to watch The Price is Right. But at some point during the week, 15 million people watched a minute of WWE programming. So, in fact, that was like a true statement, but you couldn't sit there and actually say, 15 million people are watching WWE programming every week. That's what this 500,000 number is, okay? At some point, over the course of 2 days, 500,000 people watch a minute of AEW on Max or whatever, okay? So, but even today, the same thing happens for WWE and AEW. If you look at like the Raw number, it's like 1.5 million, whatever. At some point over 2 days, the actual number of people that watch about a minute of Raw is about 3 million people. With Dynamite, the actual number of people over the course of 2 days to watch Dynamite is probably about 1.5 million. But you don't count those as the actual viewership number. So my point is this. There aren't 500,000 people watching on Max every week. But if you look at the breakdown compared to how the breakdown goes on TV, it's actually around 150 to 250 that are watching on Max. And I said that from day one. And honestly, it's one of those things that I don't even understand why people are so averse to this idea, because when you do a poll online, and I've said it before, it's online, so it shouldn't really count, like half the people are going to tell you they've switched to Max. I don't believe half the people switched to Max, okay? The polls are probably skewed. But this is not a deal where, well, I did it, so everybody did. I mean, I asked the chat that is arguing this right now, I asked the chat, how many of you are watching on Max? And like 70% said they were watching on Max now. Meanwhile, they're saying that nobody... I don't get it. So, yes, they have gained a new audience on Max. It's not 500,000 people. But it's probably, depending on the week, 150. If it's a good week where Jon Moxley gets a baseball bat with spikes tearing flesh off his back, might hit 250. But like if you add it together with the people watching on TV, it's probably 800,000-900,000 people. It's close to 1 million.
From Botchamania to WrestleNomics, is there anything this man can't do?
Hey, I'll tell you about Botchamania after the break. I got something to say about that. Observer Live. Granny, what's happening? What do we got for the wrestling report here today?
Talk or something.
Talk or something.
So Niven comes in, jumps on Bailey with her overweight body a couple of times, doesn't mind playing dirty, leaves Bailey on the mat in lots of pain. I found this book. It's called Limericks from the Heart.
Is this a Lanny Poffo book?
Let me finish this one. This guy's name is Lanny Poffo. And there are 335 pages in here. Can you guess what it's about?
Smoking.
Oh,
Sean the Wizard.
have you read it?
We read it every week for about 6 months.
When I first started.
Wow.
Why don't we start reading some questions, and we'll see if we can spur some answers out of Granny. Shall we try?
No, I don't think so.
Let's try.
Then you'll really find out how dumb I am.
Granny, did you know there was a wrestling bear?
No, and I don't care.
All right.
It's a bear that wrestled people.
I still don't care.
Okay.
Is Granny frozen?
Granny, you frozen?
No, I'm ready to read my report.
Your picture is frozen.
It is.
Yeah. Or you're doing a great job as a ventriloquist.
Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, or whatever his last name is. Paul Newman is watching this match, and he's not on Cody's side. What's the matter?
Absolutely nothing. Everything's great.
You know, Cody did say that he was looking for a manager. I think him and Paul Newman would be a...
What a handsome pair.
Yeah. A dashing duo.
That guy's a movie star, isn't he?
Since you're on the phone, why don't we just jump right into your wrestling report and such, and then we'll let you go and we'll do Facebook without you.
Can I lay the phone down and can you hear me?
You can try. Why don't you give it a shot?
Okay.
Oh, boy. It's going to be a disaster. I can already tell.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That's all right, I guess.
Go ahead.
No, it's your segment. You're gonna read
us jokes
or your wrestling report or whatever. I see Granny has now put the phone back up to her ear.
I'm just for now.
Do you have the soaps or anything else, Granny, or is that it?
I want to quit for now.
Okay. Well,
no more.
Instead of suffering through the YouTube chat, click like and subscribe. I continue my speeches today.
Will you get out of that chat?
I'm not in the chat. Okay, so listen.
You were.
Well, I was reading some of the stuff they were saying about how they think I'm going to cut a promo on Matthew of Botchamania. I like that guy.
I was going to say, what?
I met him. He's a nice guy. I have no problem with him whatsoever. I don't have a problem with anything on it because I said it. Like, it all happened. I will give myself credit, by the way.
No kidding.
That when I was recapping what happened, I was not using notes. It was burned into my memory. I did screw up Cash and Dax, who was holding who when they were going for the heart attack, but I remembered every botched spot in order. I guess because I was a wrestler, I botched a lot of spots in order. Maybe that's what happened. But anyway, here's what I do want to say about it, okay? I mean, I watched it and laughed. He did a great job with it. But here's the thing. It's all on the internet, and everybody's watching it. And now, once again, everyone thinks that I hate FTR.
Oh, boy.
And I don't really care, okay? But, the thing is, I don't hate FTR. And, in fact, if you watch the entire review of that match, I put all four guys over by the end because here's what happened. That match was a train wreck early, okay? It was a train wreck early. But you know what happened? These are 4 professional wrestlers, and they were determined to barrel on through. And as a former wrestler, I can tell you this. A lot of wrestlers, when something starts going wrong in a match, brother, it's all over. That thing, it ain't ever recovering. And it only gets worse, and you get inside your own head, and now you're botching even dumber stuff, and eventually it's just like, let's just go home. God, this sucks. But these 4 guys, it was one after another, after another, after another, and they were determined to get this train back on the tracks. And as God is my witness, by the end of this match, I was like, that was a great match. They turned it around at the end. And in fact, I remember in my review, I was like, I haven't seen very many matches that had so many problems early, yet ended up so great as this one did. So the thing was, when I did the review, the review was about putting them over. But, now, no one saw that part. I only saw talking about what a horrible series of misfortunes befell FTR in that match. So I kind of feel bad in a sense, but at the end of the day, that's what the internet is all about. It's clipping certain things. Certain things get put online and other things don't get put online. And it kind of was a little bit, I felt a little bit extra bad this week because this was also the week that I ranted. So rant is probably the wrong word. Holy smokes. That Dax Wheeler Yuta match. I may have liked that match more than Dax and Wheeler Yuta, actually. When I look back at it,
You are its biggest fan.
I loved that match. Do you understand? I loved that match. And I raved about it for minutes on end. And when it was over, I thought, maybe that clip's going to end up on the internet about how much I actually loved something and how great I thought it was. And it involved FTR. Nope.
Nah.
Didn't end up online. So anyway, if you aren't a subscriber, and maybe Dax is, I don't know. Probably unlikely. But if you're not a subscriber, all you know today is, golly, there's Bryan burying FTR again. He hates those guys. And nothing, I won't say nothing could be further from the truth, but I don't hate those guys.
2025, come on now.
I think they're incredibly, incredibly talented.
When did the
All of
internet
those
start
guys.
this feud between you and FTR? Why is Undisputed Kingdom and Daniel Garcia and Nigel?
FTR definitely, Dax definitely doesn't like me.
Oh, okay.
I don't even remember
That's-
why.
That's been
He
established.
got really mad. He got really mad at something, and I'm trying to remember what it even was.
Did you talk about his family? Because he'll talk about
No, it
his
had nothing to do with his
okay.
family. I don't talk about people's families.
Just kidding. It's a joke about him talking about his family in promos.
I said something he got really mad about, and it was actually, as usual, a big misunderstanding. But I'm sure he probably still doesn't. It had something to do with Punk, I think. I think he still doesn't like me, but I don't have any problem with the guy. I'm trying to think of anybody in wrestling I actually have a problem with, and I don't have a problem with anybody. Even old CM Punk.
There you go.
Yeah, I really turned a corner on that guy when he started burying Seth's attire. That's when I figured out, you know what? The reason we're like oil and water is because we're not. It's I forget who said it in a promo, but somebody made a comment about how...
Wait a
Actually,
second.
no, you know what? You know who it was, ironically? It was Punk. It was Punk when he was doing that interview with Stephanie. He goes,
I was going to say Triple H.
He goes, Paul and I think we're a lot more alike than we'd like to admit. And I went, oh my God, that's me and CM Punk. Huh. How about that?
You share a lot of characteristics with a lot of people. Mussolini.
I share a lot of
them.
characteristics with a lot of people that don't like me. But see, I don't dislike them.
What does that say?
I don't dislike them, so the problem is with them. That's what I've determined here. Yeah. This person says Triple H has banned me from scrums. Has he? I didn't know that. I mean, I haven't been invited any. I don't get credentialed.
Well, that whole hot dog question is still...
No, that was a good question. I will listen.
Since you have re-explained
If
it,
you
yes,
gave
I don't
me
know
a
if in
day-
the moment it was that good.
If you gave me a day, I could make a list of things I've done that are really stupid, okay? That is not, nor will it ever be on there.
Now,
That's probably... You know why I'm not invited to the scrums?
Why?
Because I got a good answer out of him. Because I tricked him by asking him about hot dogs and wieners. I tricked him into giving an answer that he probably shouldn't have gave. Yes. So anyway. Guys don't know the hot dog question?
They do. We
Triple
just
H.
talked about this.
I did just talk about it. Triple H was on the show, and he was supposed to plug a movie or something, and I wanted to get a couple of good questions in. And I knew he wasn't going to answer any questions. Like, I wanted to ask a question about scripted promos, because at the time, these promos were god-frickin' awful, up and down the show. Stupid verbiage, stupid scripting, none of them felt real. And you can't say, hey, Triple H, the promos on the show absolutely suck. They're terrible. What do you think about them? If anybody thinks you're going to get an answer to that question, you're wrong, okay? So instead, I framed it. And I said, I was just watching some Raws from 97, and you and DX were out there. And it was a show where you guys were roasting wieners. Well, you used the word wiener, and now everyone thinks you're all silly. And I was pointing out that these segments were so great because it was like you three guys going out there and just like having the time of your life. And there was no script and there was no, you probably had bullet points or whatever, but you're just out there barbecuing. But it was like, people will never forget it and it got your character. And I said, it's just, what are your thoughts on that as compared to today? And then, he starts talking about, well, today things are a lot more. And he started talking about how things are a lot more scripted nowadays, and there's a lot less. I got an answer out of him that I wouldn't have got if I would have framed it as, hey, the promos today suck. What can you do about them? But people had to make fun of it. Oh, he brought up wieners with Triple H. He had a chance to talk to Triple H, and he asked him about wieners. No, I didn't ask him about wieners. You idiots. There's a point to the question, and I got a good answer out of him. So anyway... And now I can't go to Scrums. I ask him about wieners again.
I have a question and a comment, and the comment first here, okay? This is what I remember, and I'd have to go back and listen to it. I do remember him saying, in a very Triple H dismissive way, this guy's talking about wieners. I don't recall what the answer was, but I do remember that.
He had a good answer. It was a decent answer.
My question to you as a broadcast journalist and somebody who's been doing this stuff for a long time, do you go into these things with 3 different ways to ask a key question so you can get an answer or hopefully get an answer out of someone, or do you just barrel on
No, here's the thing.
Ask it once?
Here's the thing. People can get mad at me about this all they want, but like every time people get mad... When folks go to a scrum and they don't ask about Janelle Grant when Triple H is up there, it's like, well, you got to ask the question. And it always, to me, it's like, I guess, but you're never going to get an answer. Is there a question that you can find a way to get an answer to? Okay? So what are our options? We either ask about Janelle Grant and get no... Actually, I take that back. Once they did ask, and he had a really stupid answer. Okay? So, but they didn't get the answer they wanted, is my point. So, your option is either go and ask like a good question that you're not going to get an answer to, or you're going to go and kiss his ass and ask some storyline question and get some storyline answer.
Oh my God, I really love the show.
I choose... Okay, so there's option A. Ask like a hard question you won't get an answer to. There's option B, kiss ass and ask some stupid storyline question with a frivolous answer. Or there's option C. Can I come up with a question and frame it in a way where it doesn't come across as like you're attacking the person, but you can get a good answer out of it? And I mean, I'm not going to put myself over as like the best interviewer or whatever, because I hate asking questions at scrums, okay? But like when I ask questions at scrums, I usually will get a good answer to a real question. So like that's what I feel you should try to do with these scrums. You know what the scrum is. You know what you're going to get and not get. But can you find a way to ask a clever question and actually get a good real answer? Oh, you can. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful.
I am going to channel
the well-known, infamous roast of Bryan and Lance.
Oh, my God.
I vaguely remember this.
Lance was a champion in virtually every company he has appeared in. While he did hold the distinction of holding 3 titles, that angle fizzled out faster than his podcast, Killing the Town.
Wow. I now remember this utter disaster of a roast.
Let's get Lance a chair to sit in. And as we do, could we also bring someone up here to show him how to use it? I remember that chair shot. I don't remember who it was on, but
utter
I remember
silence that this roast was met with.
Tom, at least I was smart enough not to do those chair shots again.
Bryan, besides me, there are others who I'm sure dislike you, like Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, but I think you're great, like a guiding light or a father, which is why I'm not surprised when you screw me every week. The best-selling author of The Death of WCW. He had just completed his new book, for which actually Lance Storm wrote the foreword, which is 3 more than most wrestling fans know.
Hideous. Atrocious.
It must be hard when you look so young. If I didn't know better, I'd say you had your grandma's genes. But actually, if the camera panned down, I bet Lance is wearing them. Anyways, let's start the show. Carmelo went for the La Mystica. Andrade went for the Message.
It's actually not the La Mystica. It starts like a La Mystica, but the La Mystica is actually a submission, and he doesn't land in the submission. He just does the whole slam part and then jumps up.
Yeah, the La Mystica is a tilt-a-whirl head scissor into a Fujiwara armbar.
Into a Fujiwara armbar. The La Mystica is not the submission. Do not tell me.
I didn't say that was a submission. I said the La Mystica involves the tilt-a-whirl facebuster into the submission. The whole thing. Why are you so angry?
Well, you just changed what you said. Right?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't land in a submission. He just slams them. So it's not a La Mystica.
I believe that's the actual move.
Okay,
but
whatever. Who cares?
I just hope editor Sean pulls up the exact clip of you saying La Mystica is a submission and then denying it afterwards.
La Mystica is actually a submission. I didn't say that was a submission.
La Mystica is actually a submission. I didn't say that was a submission.
Editor Sean.
Talking.
You are listening
Nope,
to Wrestling
I'm not.
Observer Live with
Talking
Bryan
all over that
Alvarez
deep-voiced
and
man.
Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting
All right.
Network.
Do the kids even know that was the Budweiser guy from way back?
Is it?
Yeah,
I think he's a famous guy.
The Real Men of Genius, whatever that ad campaign was.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a question here. What happened with the Mariah May press conference? That's another one people always get on me about. You were there. Why didn't you ask a question to Mariah May?
What?
It was a press conference. Mariah May was there. Nobody asked her a question.
Oh,
and she was awkwardly sitting there, and then she left. Okay, well, here's the thing, everybody. Here's the thing.
These guys have never seen a woman in person before, and they got scared.
No.
Just like a lot of you watching right now.
This is the deal with the Mariah May press conference, okay? There are people who will do the press conference. Chris Jericho's a good example. And you can ask him anything, and you're going to get... you won't get well, how should I say this?
He can talk his ass off.
Well, not just that, but like he'll be honest.
Yeah,
you can ask him a question. He's going to give you a real answer. He's going to do it like an actual sporting press conference. He's not going to sit there and be in character.
Sometimes
he's not going to do a silly voice and go, "Hi guys," when you ask him a question. I mean, he may do it as a joke, but like he's going to sit there and he's going to answer questions. So if we got like a good question for him, obviously with some exceptions, but like if you have a good question for him, he's going to answer it. Okay. Now there's other guys. MJF is actually a good example. MJF comes into the press conference, and he is in character, okay? And he'll make fun of this reporter. He'll make fun of me. He'll bury somebody, talk about someone's stupid haircut, whatever, all right? But if you ask him a good question, he will give you a real answer. Okay? So he is playing his character, but he will give you a real answer. So I think he had like a bad shoulder injury or something like that, or whatever. And like if he took a weird bump and landed funny or whatever, like you could say, how's your labrum? I know you had like a torn labrum or something, and you took a real bad bump on your shoulder. Like, how's it feeling? He'll give you an answer. Okay? Then Mariah May walked in. And she comes in 100% in character, okay? The first person asks her a question, and she gives a 100% in character answer. And then, like, somebody else asked a question, and they got a 100% in character answer. And at that point, I was like, I'm not going to ask a question, okay? I'm not going to sit here and, like create a character and then ask an in-character question so she can give I don't want to do that, okay? If I thought that there was a question I could ask to get a real answer, not a Mariah May in-character answer, a real answer, if I felt like that would happen, I'd ask her a question. I didn't feel that was going to happen. I felt there's no question that I can ask where I'm going to get, like, a real answer. I'm going to get Mariah May in-character answering the question, so I'm not going to bother. And I didn't. And everyone got so mad. Well, that's the way things work, dude. I'm not wasting my time asking an in-character question to get an in-character answer.
If people are that mad, then they're just that weak, or they have that much time on their hands, because it is not anybody's job to go make the talent feel good in the post-match, post-press conference scrum. It's not. If you're going for real journalistic purposes, why would you feed into that? It's not your job to feed into a character. And like Brian said, there's no point in asking a real question if you're just going to get an in-character answer. If you're there for purposes of creating your own media, which a lot of people are there for, that's what they're there for. They want to put stuff up on their pages and all that stuff. Still, even then, it's not their job to talk to everybody up there and to have questions ready to go. Maybe the people that are up there should have something in their minds ready to go if they don't get asked questions. If you go to real press conferences, you see it all the time, where there's two people on a fight dais that are being talked to, and then there's everybody else on the undercard that nobody talks to. You see that UFC ones all the time. So it's not that, if you're getting that upset about it, I don't know. Really, are you that much emotionally tied into somebody not asking Mariah May a question? I mean, that may be a you issue.
Is this Brian addresses his enemies day to day? This one goes, sounds like you got a problem with The Miz.
Get him!
Okay, fine. You know what? Here's the thing. There's personal and there's professional, okay? Professionally, yes, I have a problem with The Miz, okay? Professionally... And, I have friends who are, like, really good workers who have worked with The Miz in the past, and they like working with The Miz because it's, like, really easy, and you're not going to get hurt, and it's safe, okay? But here's the thing to me. It's like, I think part of it also is addressing my other enemies who try and tell me The Miz is, like, a great worker. Okay, he's not. He's passable, okay? You're not going to get hurt working him. You're going to have, like, an okay match, and, like, everything's fine. It's not like it's going to be a 0-star match or something, but, like, it's never going to be great. So, anyway, the thing with The Miz is I am watching the exact same guy that I watched in 2004 or 2003 or whatever. It's the exact same character. He works the exact same way. He's never done anything. Like, I've never seen any attempt to get better at this. He's literally stayed exactly the same for 23 years or whatever. Okay? So, as a professional, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that I was like the best wrestler in the world, okay? But I sat down after every match. I taped every single match I ever did. And when it was over, I sat down and I watched it over and over and over again. And it was like, what looked good in this match? What looked terrible? Okay, that looked terrible. Maybe I'm going to try to fix that. Maybe I'm going to try and make that better. You know what? If I can't, I'm just going to stop doing it, okay? I had a desire to, like, get better. Whatever level you think I got at, I don't care. I, inside, had a desire to get better. And I don't see that in The Miz. It was like he achieved a certain level in 2004, and he's been perfectly content staying at that level for 23 years, okay? So as a worker, no, I don't like Miz, and no, I don't like Miz matches. But that's as a worker. As a person, I have no problem with Mike the Miz whatsoever. And I've seen, stuff that he's done outside of WWE. Yes, he's a robot, but that's his job. But I've watched Miz and Mrs. I've watched episodes of that show, and I'm sure he wouldn't want to be friends with me. But you know what? I'd have no problem being friends with Miz. If Miz lived next door, I would regularly invite him over for barbecues. Hey, you want to come over and watch Dynasty? It seems like a nice, friendly chap. I have no problem with him personally.
Dynasty still on?
But there's a big difference between what I think of someone personally and what I think about how they do their job. As you're well aware, Mike. So anyway, yeah, he was attacked by zombies. God.
We've left the personal and professional blend plenty of times on this show, but that works for us. Now, if you're going to invite Miz over for some barbecue, you're going to invite Baron Corbin over, too, to make that barbecue? That's another guy.
That's another guy that doesn't like me. You know what the thing with Baron Corbin is? Here's another one. I don't even know why he doesn't like me. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. I never buried him. I didn't even bury his matches. I buried the stupid stuff they made the guy do. Which, by the way, now they've let him go, and,
he's whipping
he's
ass on
probably as
Bloodsport.
angry about it as I am now. But the point is, you ever gone on his Instagram?
Yeah.
He's another guy. We'd be best friends, brother. I mean, we got a lot of the same interests. In fact, all of them.
Steak and weights.
Steak and weights and jiu-jitsu, dude. That's another guy where it's like, the problem is we're too alike, me and old Baron Corbin. But he doesn't like me. I think he blocked me on Twitter.
He ain't inviting you to any Kansas City Chiefs games.
But the point is, I never said one bad thing about the guy. And in fact, like if you listened, I often put over what a great worker he was. And he actually, and Dax is another one. These guys get my personal highest badge of honor, which is I would have a match with him. Yep.
Oh, that's
I can't say that about everybody. I can't say that about a lot of people.
The Platinum Star.
He'd probably kill me, but the point is, I'd have a match with Baron Corbin. I'd love to have a match with Dax. And, but both those guys.
Wait a second. You're going to be in Vegas. Bloodsport is going to be going on. He has done a Bloodsport. Filthy Tom could probably, maybe, get that thing going there.
No.
Would you think you could take him on?
No.
No?
Guys, you understand size does matter? It's a myth, this size doesn't matter thing. It does a lot, okay? Anyway. I liked on Raw. I sure liked that CM Punk John Cena segment.
Adam Copeland is saved.
I thought that one was really good. Yeah, I don't think he likes me either. But I think he does a good job. He doesn't like me because I didn't like a match that literally no one else liked either.
Oh, the
Him
Orton
and
match?
Randy Orton were the only two that liked that match. I was one of 1 billion people worldwide who didn't like it, but I'm the one that got in trouble. Anyway.
And yet they didn't get gotten to, considering they called the next one the greatest match ever before it even
Yeah, and you know what I
happened.
thought about the greatest match of all time? I thought that match was awesome. But man, nobody, that one didn't get to him. Just that other one. Anyway, this John Cena Cody segment was quite great. And Cody laid this guy out flat on his back, middle of the ring. And granted, we have 3 more weeks, so I'm sure that Cena's going to F5 him and lay him out. But man, when this segment was over, I was sure that guy's winning the title. That's what I got out of it. And then the other segment that was... what was the other great segment? There was one other great segment. And then there was that main event segment. Jimmy and Gunther. Golly.
Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes. Is this Mid-South? Gunther kills a guy's brother. And then after the break, he jumps Jay as he's helping his poor brother to the back. Zip ties Jay to the ropes. Puts a beating on Jimmy. The blade's back, brother. Not only is Jimmy bleeding all over the place, not only can you do blood again, but Gunther's licking blood, licking the guy's blood. He puts that guy in the rear naked, and there's blood pouring all over
his
Gunther's
chest.
face.
Yeah, it's like a bear just killed something and ate it.
And he's killing this guy right in front of his own brother. And I got to say, like, Jay did such an awesome job because he's zip-tied and he can't get out. But, like, he goes from trying desperately and unsuccessfully to get out to just, like, resigned to not getting out. And
That's it.
He's just so mad. And,
great.
man, I'm going to kill you. I am going to kill you. And then, like, he can't take it anymore, so he tries to bust out of these things, and he can't. God, Jay, Jimmy, and Gunther were freaking awesome in this segment. And thank God, because I was so sick of this feud. Just every week, Jay gets choked out. It's like same thing every week. And finally, they mixed it up, and this was awesome.
They deserve the brawl. I know we're going to have two, probably one on Raw, one on SmackDown, where somebody's brawling into a crowd trying to keep them apart. That's the one they should do. Keep them apart until the absolute last minute. Have that big brawl. Have it through the crowd. Have it just chaos taking place. I think that one would be perfect and really sets it going into that night at WrestleMania.
Hackman goes, you're saying I should watch the Gunther match? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing about the match is, like, they put the commercial break in a weird spot. They went, like, 3 minutes, and then a commercial, and then came back for, like, just the choke at the end. That first 3 minutes was really good. If Jay can wrestle half as good as his brother, that match is going to be awesome, even though they've wrestled each other before. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. We got a big Elimination Chamber report here. And also Collision from Saturday, which actually was a pretty damn good show in its own right.
I was not told to watch Collision.
Vinny?
I forgot to text him Thursday night. I figured he'd be in bed. I said I'd do it tomorrow. And then Friday I bought a car. I was busy, and I've been forgot. John comes out, looks into the camera, and says, "There's a vibe in here tonight."
Sure is.
I'll see. Punk's eyes are bugging out of his head. Seth is still there screaming, "Die, die!" And Seth gets his way. Punk dies. John Cena wins. I thought the finish of this was incredible. Great stuff.
God, Travis Scott. Jesus God almighty. This was exactly like when Hogan used to come to the ring, Dennis Rodman trailing him, and Dennis Rodman was like on another planet. He had no idea where he was at, stumbling to the ring. He had basically have to drag him down there. This Travis Scott was on another planet, dude.
Well, the first time he was on the show was on that Raw show. He was smoking a blunt in the audience.
They go from the hug to a shot of Cena's angry heel face, and they cut right to Rock on. And then he kicks him right in the balls. And the crowd freaked out. The John Cena turned heel. Hulk Hogan, he was getting booed before he turned. It was a risk, but, they were getting sick of the guy anyway. The problem with Steve Austin was he was the top babyface, and there was nobody to replace him when he turned. John Cena's been gone forever. He comes back. It's not like he was going to be the top babyface. They got 50 babyfaces. Cody's the biggest babyface they got. There's no risk whatsoever turning John Cena heel. He's 10 times more interesting now. The Cena and Cody feud is 1,000 times more interesting.
Travis hit Cody Rhodes in the face as hard as he could. I bet that sucked.
This was a big deal, and I didn't see it coming.
You guys need to listen to Observer Live on Friday.
No thanks.
Because some dude called in, all bombastic and outrageous.
Do y'all think that John Cena is going to be the one that turns heel and joins The Rock as his champion?
No chance. And I shot him down. I laughed at him.
Wow.
I said it's not going to happen. John Cena's here to sell tickets and merch as a babyface for his last year. He ain't turning heel.
They need to make shirts for John Cena that just say, "Can you see me now?"
I got to apologize to old Dwayne. I thought that guy was out of his mind. He got me. It was awesome. I cannot wait to see where they go here. Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Couple of quick notes. First off, tonight, Mid-South Wrestling is Season 6, Episode 19. If you would like to follow along with us every week, that is Season 6, Episode 19. And it's a good one. So you can follow along on the Brian and Vinny show. Granny will be there. Craig. No Sean. He's in Europe. And also, yes, the board is down for maintenance. I don't know why it says the account is suspended. It's an odd message. But yes, if you cannot get on the board, that is why the thing's down.
Hopefully it's sunny outside. Go outside for a little bit. It'll be back up soon enough. Go do something.
It's going to be a really peaceful. It's going to be a peaceful 2 days if I stay off Twitter, let me tell you, which I plan on doing. So, anyway, that's the update, and I think that's all the news for today. So, we didn't talk about much wrestling, but I got a lot off my chest, so I feel a lot better. So we're going to wrap it up, and tomorrow it'll be Wrestling Observer Live and After Dark Radio, and it will be a solo After Dark Radio, no guest, and so we'll read a bunch of interesting stories from your neck of the woods, which you can still send to Brian at AfterDarkRadioshow.com, or any weird stories your grandparents told you. Brian at AfterDarkRadioshow.com. I got a lot of them. You can email me about anything. I'll read it. But we got a lot of that, and we'll do news and calls and everything else. And Brian and Vinny's show tonight, so check it out. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.